All right. And then I think everybody's here, and I'm sure people will still tune in and join us as we get going. So, welcome to Coffee and Market Conversation with Real Team Real Estate and Range Lending. This is our third week in a row. So, we're excited to see some familiar faces, and I see quite a few new ones too. So, that's exciting. We know that the last couple of weeks have been scary and challenging for many people with the fear of the unknown having everybody uneasy. So, we're here to be real with you today. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. We want to come together as a community and provide you with value. So, we picked a panel for you today. We switched it up. These guys have some of the most well rounded knowledge and experience in our local Metro Detroit market to answer any questions you have related to the current state of the economy, housing projections, and mortgages. So I do have a couple questions to get us started that I'm going to ask each of them. And then I'm counting on all of you guys to share your questions with us via the chat feature, which is at the bottom of your screen. Couple things you might want to do that will help you out here is if you choose speaker view in the top right corner, that'll be a little bit easier to follow who's talking at what time. And then if all of you can keep your videos muted, for now it'll just help eliminate the background noise so we can hear the panelists. But I'll be reading off all the questions. So we will get started here. My first question is actually for Jamie Johnson. He's with Range Lending. And Jamie, can you just introduce to us what is going on in the current market? Like, what does it look like in the mortgage world right now?
Well, the good news is that we're getting our loans closed. It's definitely more challenging. There's guideline changes and updates that are evolving as situations arise. Me and my team, we're taking each transaction one at a time and working through whatever hurdles. But there's definitely been some restrictions on guidelines. The lenders are tightening on underwriting guidelines and what they would allow, 30, 60 days ago. They're being changed. They're definitely changing. It's evolving, but it's adapting. And, I think it's going to continue to go in the right direction. Like I said, we're getting loans closed. And as far as the timing goes, we're getting it done in a timely fashion. 30 days, I would say, 45 on the very outside.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Of course.
So, Jamie, I know you said that some of the guidelines have changed. So let's just say I'm a buyer that was pre-approved and let's just call it February. And I just haven't found the right house yet. What does that mean for me? Like, what should I be doing? Have things changed for me?
It depends on your situation. You should probably have a conversation with your loan officer and see where where those changes might have pushed towards you. Our guidelines changed, as far as credit scores go, as far as reserves, funds that you might necessarily have to have after the transaction closes. You really don't need to worry about appraisals and things like that. We pretty much got that covered. But each person's individual loan approval could have been impacted by these changes. And I know that I personally have been looking through my pre-approvals to make sure that those buyers have been updated and we've looked at them on a case-by-case basis.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for the follow-up question, Jamie and Jamie Johnson. Appreciate it. That is positive. So my next question here to get us started is for Anthony. So Anthony, what would you tell someone that may be looking to sell now or in the near future?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And that's a great question because there's a lot of people who are considering waiting and that are still considering on taking advantage of the market. So it's kind of a balance in between the two. They're either waiting or they're taking advantage of it. So before that, I want to find out why they're wanting to wait and why they want to sell now. Like, it all depends on what their true motivation is, because real estate transactions are still happening every single day and there's still a need and still a demand. So as long as we're able to provide value to our sellers as to why it's important to sell now, people are going to sell right now, because right now inventory is at an all-time low, and the people that have their house on the market right now and put their house on the market once it's all over are going to get top dollar for their house. That's what I'm explaining to them. That's what I'm telling them why they should sell now and versus selling later. And if they do decide to sell later, they should wait until this is all over with, because those are the ones who are going to get maximized top dollar in their house.
Okay.
Ultimately, like during this time, my job is to make sure that they're safe, comfortable. We answer all their questions during this time because there's so much uncertainty right now. And I get being comfortable and keep them protected as well as us is super, super important to keep them at ease and make them comfortable throughout the process.
Okay. Excellent. So I have a question here, and I'm just going to keep firing away because I have a lot of questions queued up already. So I want to make sure to get through them and make sure this is impactful for you guys. So I'm just going to keep firing through. Jason, hi. Tell us about what it means to be an absentee owner. I know that's kind of your specialty, and just elaborate on that for us.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Janae. Great question. Good morning, everybody. Absentee owners. Really, it's a owner that owns a home that doesn't live there as their primary address. It could be a rental property, could be a home that they inherited, could have been a secondary home, maybe a vacation property. So absentee owners have properties that they don't live at, typically investment properties who I reach out to. The need to sell, typically someone's going to end up selling a property that they don't own at, that they don't live at. Usually, I would say if it's tenant occupied, just depends on what the situation is with the tenant. Has the conversation taken place between the landlord and the tenant about what the tenant's next moves are? Our intentions are never to push anybody off to the street or to make it glamorous for them to sell now and kick them out abruptly. We want to make sure that the tenants are fully aware of what's going on with the situation. The home's going to be for sale, that it's not going to get hung up in court with delinquencies or refusal to move. So open conversations are how I coach my sellers to have at least a 60-day window of opportunity to talk to the tenants, make sure that they're comfortable and where they're going next, what kind of timeline they have to get out of the property, and write a letter of recommendation if needed, for the next landlord, or help them get pre-approved, bringing them over to me. As far as preparing them for a sale, is just walking them through the property, making sure that it's a walkable property. Windows aren't broken, carpeting doesn't have holes in it, holes in the wall, things of that nature. Just getting the property up to speed for the public to walk through and to gauge it.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, Jason. So my next question, and I hope these are starting to pique your guys' interest and help you come up with some questions that you might have. Again, throw them in the chat. That's the idea, is for you guys to be able to ask any questions you have. But my next question that I have is for Jamie proper. And right now things are very weird. The process is very different, but like everybody said, we're still moving forward. And there's still homes that are being bought and sold right now. So Jamie, can you tell us what that process looks like right now compared to what it used to look like? How about like inspections, appraisals, final walkthroughs? Like, what does that process look like right now?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, the process hasn't changed too much. Inspectors are still inspecting, appraisers are still appraising, and title companies are still closing. So what's changed for our buyers and our sellers is obviously they cannot physically walk through. So we have been doing a lot of virtual tours. We're working with buyers and sellers and co-op agents and just getting creative, even FaceTiming each other as they walk through the house, and the same for final walkthroughs. So a lot of it, it's over the screen, but we're doing everything we can to make sure that our buyers and sellers feel as comfortable as possible, and that they're seeing everything that they normally would if they were physically walking through the house.
Cool. All right. That's awesome. So again, keep throwing your questions there in the chat. Jamie Johnson, you talked a little bit about what's going on in the mortgage world, but can you tell us about what the process looks like right now? What's the difference between a broker like you and Range Lending versus a regular bank? And then I have some follow-up questions for you on that one too. Oh, we got to unmute you. Oh,
Okay, am I clear?
you're good.
Sorry about that. That's a great question about the difference between a bank and a broker. I have a scenario I'd like to share with you that just happened the other day. I had someone who was shopping for a mortgage, and they were going to go to their bank and get pre-approved so they could start the home buying process. And they reached out to a local branch, and they were told to wait until the coronavirus restrictions had been lifted because they wanted to meet with them face-to-face in a branch. And, you know, for me, we've been doing business digitally for years. You know, as brokers, everything we do can be done electronically. I can't remember the last time I took an application face-to-face. And I've been doing this for a very, very long time. So the process is completely digital. You know, there's absolutely no need, or it's not necessary for you to, you know, sit face-to-face with anybody until you get to closing. One of the major differences between banks and brokers is our ability to pivot, you know, and look at different products at different lenders. When you make an application at a bank, you're dealing with one loan officer who has a certain lineup of products and, you know, one underwriter and one appraisal opportunity. With a broker like Range Lending, you know, we have multiple investors that we deal with, half a dozen different lenders. And, you know, we don't necessarily like to change from one lender to a next, but if in the process someone's loan doesn't get approved because a guideline changed or something came up that, you know, didn't fit for that lender, we as brokers have the ability to take that loan to another investor and hopefully get that loan approved there. It's basically giving you the ability to apply at 6 different lenders at once. It's something that we as brokers have that banks don't.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So my next question here is for Jamie proper. So what are some of the biggest fears coming out of current buyers and sellers right now? Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I know you work probably closer than anyone with the largest number of buyers and sellers right now with your role.
Right. So I would say, I mean, the biggest fear is just the fear that we all have, right? It's the fear of the uncertainty. No one knows, you know, what's going to happen. No one knows how long this is going to last. No one knows what the future holds. So the conversations would probably be a lot easier if we knew for a fact that things were going to go back to normal on May 1st or May 15th or whatever it may be. So it's just the uncertainty. So kind of like Toko mentioned at the beginning of the call, you know, it just comes down to their motivation. You know, why are they thinking about making a move? Why do they want to buy? Why do they want to sell? And if this is the time to do it, then again, we have things in place to protect them and make sure things go as smooth as possible. So, you know, the fear of the uncertainty is something that we can't really help with. But it's definitely something, you know, that we keep in mind, and we are slowing down the process. We're over explaining the process to our clients, making sure that they feel 1,000,000% comfortable, and just doing everything we can on our end.
Okay, good. So Anthony, I kind of have a follow-up question to that. So you're making a lot of phone calls, and you've always made a lot of phone calls for the company, and you're talking to a lot of people right now, a lot of homeowners. What does your conversation look like right now? Are there a lot of fears out there? Are people excited to talk to you? What are you seeing?
It's a great question. I'm very encouraged by the conversations I am having because people are still interested in achieving their real estate goals, whether it's buying or selling during this time. And right now, it's just so important to educate them on what's going on and what's projected in the future, and then ultimately finding out their time frame of when they actually want to buy and sell, and what is their big why to make that move during this time. And then with the pandemic going on, one of my big questions is, finding out what's going to make them most comfortable to put their house on the market during this time, right? So as long as we're finding out those needs and make sure they're feeling comfortable, there's going to be real estate transactions happening, and they're going to be wanting to do business with you because you're ahead of the game, having conversations as to what we're going to do to protect them to accomplish their real estate goals.
Okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. So I have a question for Jason Salem here, and one correct. Okay. I have a question for Jason Salem. You hosted a virtual open house yesterday, and I know there's a lot of virtual things going on right now where sellers are recording videos and we're sending them out, but you actually hosted an open house from like a specific time, and people came in with their agent. Can you tell us more about that and how that went yesterday?
Yeah, it was really exciting. So first of all, we had the seller was at the house. We opened up a Zoom chat and invited agents and buyers that wanted to show up. And the seller was basically just walking through the home, and we were just talking about the home and having conversations with anybody that chimed in. Every area of the home that he was walking through, we'd give a brief description, let him know, what the fixtures were, the updates in that room, square footage. We were taking live questions. People had questions about the HOA, age of the furnace, age of the water heater, random windows, where the parking was. We were able to walk outside, show an exterior view. It was pretty exciting. It was pretty cool. First time hosting a virtual open house. We had about 7 people show up in total, and heck, I think I hosted open houses where less people have actually shown up physically. So instead of putting up signs, we blasted out emails and invited everybody. Positive views from everybody that walked through. As far as from the agent's standpoint, they adored the marketing campaign that we put together. They said it was very nice, very well drawn out as far as how the email looked. And the seller was pretty positive. He enjoyed that people actually showed up and we were able to chat about the condo and talk about it some more. So it felt, instead of just sending out a video, I liked the aspect of being able to answer any questions on the fly. The seller was able to answer questions on the fly. It was a good involvement between us. And, people get a little stir crazy. So it's good to kind of tune into like these live events like we're doing now, or even like a live concert or a live open house. So I'm looking forward to hosting and putting together a couple other open houses.
That's awesome. So Jason, I have a follow-up question. Do you think that you will maybe consider doing virtual open houses once in a while, even once we're back to normal?
Sure. That's a great question. I guess somebody would always have to be, at the house. So whether it be myself, just setting up a live feed while I'm at an open house and being able to answer questions, I think I'm open for that. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe stream it live on Facebook as well. Incorporate, as many people letting us know, what's going on, what type of activity.
Yeah, that's great.
I wonder if I'd have to put up like a sign. There's a live recording going on in the property.
I think, people are really digging all this technology. I think it's going to change how we do things in the future a little bit too, which is really cool. It just gives us a whole nother avenue to continue to help buyers and sellers in the future. So I want to keep.
It was ironic. It was ironic. They were preaching about videos and making, video marketing. What was it, like 6-7 months ago? It just was starting to churn. And then, at the turn of the year, it was hammered down like, hey, you got to start doing some more video marketing. And look what happened. Everyone's forced into, a video approach because of distancing. So a lot more people are getting comfortable behind the camera. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really neat. So my next question is for Jamie. This one's from Danny Schick. This is a great question. His question is, how has the value of a real estate professional changed given the current situation?
Me, Jamie, I'm assuming?
Oh,
Yes?
Sorry, Jamie.
Okay. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. So, yeah, that's a good question. So I think that our job has become a lot more important, to be honest with you. So our buyers and our sellers are putting their complete trust in us to make sure that all of the bases are covered, because, you know, again, they're stuck at home. So I know that, you know, everyone on this call has probably said or heard somebody say, you know, before all of this happened, why do I need an agent? I can walk through a house by myself. I can do this by myself. At this point, they can't do that, right? So they're putting literally all of their trust in us and trusting us with the biggest asset of their life while they're stuck at their house. So I think it's really cool, and it's giving us like a really amazing opportunity to just build extremely strong relationships with our clients. And just, I don't know, I think it's really, really cool.
It's great. So what else are all the real estate agents on Real Team in particular doing right now from home since they're not out in the field as much?
So we are doing things like this. So I've been loving it. I've been talking about it a lot. So we spend a lot of time on Zoom. We spend a lot of time on training and building our skill and just learning the process. Obviously, that's something that we've always valued at Real Team, and we've always done a really good job at making sure that our agents are the best in the market. But, you know, again, we still have buyers that are buying and sellers that are selling, but we do have more free time. We're not spending hours in the car driving to appointments or or showing buyers. So we have a lot of time that we're spending together, talking about the market, talking about what's happening, what's changing, bouncing ideas off of each other, and just working really hard to get better together. That way, when this is all over, we're the best team like we know we are. So
It's awesome. Cool. Sounds like everybody's busy.
definitely.
So I have a question for Jamie Johnson that actually came through the chat. I think it came through private, so maybe you can't see it, but the question is from a potential buyer who's here, and they said, I got approved for a mortgage back in December. I am a first-time buyer, and we had the appraisal in March. My credit score is a 620, and I was told a couple weeks ago that I need to get my score up to a 640 in order to requalify. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know some qualifications have changed, so can you answer this question directly and then tell us a little bit about how lenders are changing qualifications right now?
Well, our lenders that we deal with specifically have increased their minimum credit score requirement from 620 to 640. That's with our lenders that we deal with. I know there are other lenders that have raised that bar even higher to 700. So for you, you do need to get your score up if that's what your lender's minimum requirement is. So with the help of your loan officer and maybe a credit repair company, you could do some things, take some actions that could get your score up relatively quickly. But it's definitely something that can be done in a short period of time to keep you moving forward on this transaction. And I'm sorry, Janae, what was the rest of that question?
That really answers it. So, so you're saying they need to get their score up, most likely now to requalify, just because of how the lenders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they followed up with a question. So right now they're waiting on TransUnion to update the credit score. And my question is, do we know when they report? And also, what are my options at still getting this same house? Sounds like they're still pending on this exact house that they were before. They're just trying to quickly get their score up so they can actually get to the closing table.
Well, we at Range Lending have a credit reporting company that can do rapid rescores. So I don't know if whoever you're working with can do that, but we can actually get a score done in 24 to 48 hours. If, you've taken these action steps that have, enabled us to get that score up, we can get it reported right away.
Okay.
So that may be something to look at.
Okay.
Janae, can I answer the second part of that question?
Yeah.
So the second part of that question is, what are the chances I'm still going to get this house?
Yeah.
So I would say that's just going to come down to your agent just having an honest conversation with the seller's agent. So everyone has been very cooperative, everyone meaning buyers and sellers, because we all know this is uncharted territory. So the fact that you're already past your inspection and you're already past your appraisal, I think that's really good news for you, because the seller likely doesn't want to start the process over from the beginning. So I would say, again, just make sure that they're in the loop, let them know you're working on it. And from what Jamie Johnson said, it doesn't sound like it should take too long. And the fact that you're already past all of those hurdles is great news for you.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So is it the same requirements for a FHA 230K? Is the score have to be the same for that type of a loan as well?
An FHA 203K loan?
Yeah.
Are there credit score minimums 640? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. Is it because I have a listing. A buyer tried to changed his loan over to that FHA 230K or 203K, whatever it is.
It's a rehabilitation loan.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
those are a little bit
so
more
now he
complicated.
doesn't qualify. So we've extended because they said, after this is over, it may go back to, the same score it was before, but they can't say right now. So I just wondered, are we looking to see, is the credit score requirements the same for that type of loan as it was for the one you were just talking about?
I would assume yes. The FHA 203K loan is going to probably move the same guidelines. These scores, FHA loans have gotten trickier, for sure. They're a go-to loan for people with, challenged credit. And as far as these guidelines, how long they're going to be in place, I suspect things will loosen up quickly, rather than slowly like they did, previously in difficult times. Guidelines took years to loosen up. They also took longer to tighten up. I mean, within a matter of weeks, when this crisis hit, we were getting updated guidelines from our investors, from our lenders, saying, these are the new rules. Back in 2008, which I was in the industry back then, those changes came across more gradually over a longer period of time, those tightenings. And they also removed them and made it easier to lend. It took a longer time for that to open back up. But because this came down so quickly, I think they're going to disappear quickly. So I think we'll see the credit scores loosen up once things normalize.
Okay, excellent. So I want to switch gears here real quick, and I'm just going to keep the conversation going. But Jamie, we have Jamie Johnson. We have a lot of mortgage questions. So I'm going to come back to you with a couple more. But I want to ask Anthony Toko a question really quick. So are people still listing their homes for sale right now? What are you seeing?
Yes, people are still listing their houses. And again, it all depends on what their motivation is, right? Like, people want to take advantage of the market right now because there's a lot of exposure going on right now. They want to make sure their house is the first seen during this time, and they want to make sure their house is the first walkthrough once this is all uplifted. So yeah, people are taking advantage of the market right now because they're anticipating that once this all blows over, it's going to be business as usual, and they're going to be able to get the price they're looking for to sell their house.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to list their home during this time, is there no days on market that are accumulating? Is it always going to say 0 for them until this is over? Or is it, what's going on?
Oh, no. I'll answer that question. That's just the MLS. When you list a house live, the days on market are going to get started. So days on market are accumulating at this point. Definitely.
Didn't they? I thought they stopped for a while though. Is that not true?
Not that I know of. We will look into that and I'll get back to you if it's anything different. Danny's raising his hand here.
They did, Fred, but it was for a very short time. Ryan might know exactly, but was it even a week that they pulled him off?
Was it long?
Yep, sorry, it was 6 days. They pulled it off and then recaptured.
So that's come and gone really quick, Fred.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so I have a couple other questions. There's a lot of questions coming in. I'm going to ask Jason Salem this question here. Jason, this one's from Elaine. If a seller prefers not to display a for sale sign in their yard now or in the future, does it hinder the amount of potential buyers, you think, or not so much because of technology being geared towards more serious buyers?
Great question, Elaine. So you want to sell your home and not put a sign in the front yard. Will that hinder the sale? Not 100%. There's a lot of digital marketing that we're doing that, you know, if a buyer is looking, typically they come across the home. I would probably say, you know, 95% of the time they came across it online or through a search that they've already set up, you know, with an agent. A sign in the yard, basically, you know, we capture the attention of people driving by. We capture the attention of the neighbors. Obviously, you know, if there's an open house, we want to have some direction toward the house to allow people to, you know where the location is. You know, sometimes, you know, if you pull up a home and you click on the map and you follow, you know, Google to the house, Google's not the perfect, you know, system, and it might take you, you know, some other place. So signage is always great to have in front of the yard, knowing that that's the home that you're specifically looking at, connected with the address. I would roughly say about 5% of our sales, I would say, come directly from a sign call, from somebody, you know, calling the sign, knowing that they're going to get answers if they call that number. I would always suggest to put a sign in the house. There's never a time I would not suggest, you know, to put a sign up, because if your home's for sale, your home's for sale. You want to be able to attract the most amount of attention to it so you can secure an offer that is gonna be the best offer for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jason.
Awesome. So my next question here is for Jamie Johnson. I want to get to this one from Melanie that came in a little bit ago. Her question is for buyers who want to purchase in, say, June. When this pandemic may potentially be over, what can we expect with the possible lapse in income if they were temporarily laid off? And will this affect their approval odds?
It's a great question, Melanie. And let me be clear. If you're currently laid off, you cannot be approved for a loan. They're not going to approve anybody who's currently not working. When that person goes back to work, we will definitely be able to work on the loan and get it up to the point of closing or till the point of clear to close, knowing that the person is potentially going back to work. But we'll need some kind of documentation from the employer. There will be a verification process, and we'll need to, you know, make sure that they are back to work with either a paycheck stub and or verbal verifications. And how the income is going to get calculated is going to be a case by case. It depends on how you get paid. So I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, if somebody's on a salary and they're currently laid off and they go on unemployment and they go back to work in June and they resume that income they had prior to, it's a no-brainer. They have a salary, it stops for a period of time, it goes back on. We qualify that borrower with that salary. If it's someone who's commissioned, it gets a little more complicated. The underwriting guidelines haven't been published yet. They don't know because it hasn't happened yet. So somebody who's on a commission basis or somebody who's getting a lot of overtime and all of that stops for 3 months or a month, how are they going to average that into that individual's income once everything resumes? Well, we don't know yet. Hopefully, you know, the underwriters will be able to remove the pandemic shutdown period while that person was laid off from the equation so that the income doesn't take a hit on the average. And I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to you, but so if it's a straight income and it resumes, we'll qualify you just like that. So that's the simple question.
Okay.
The simple answers.
Great. So I have a question for Jamie. This one came from Joshua Wright. So his question is, like most real estate agents, production levels have dropped for new transactions that are getting under contract and listings. He's guessing that our team is experiencing the same. What percentage drop has your team had since the stay-home order has been put in place for new transactions and new listings? And the second part of the question is, what is our plan once the order is lifted? I'm guessing to regain that momentum.
Yeah, that's a good question. The simple answer is I don't know the percentage. So we, obviously the amount of transactions have definitely slowed down percentage-wise. I'm not sure, and to be completely honest with you, it's just not what we're focusing on. Our team's focusing on controlling what we're able to control. So we have buyers that want to buy, we have sellers that want to sell, and in the meantime, we're building our skill and we're trying to improve as a team together and doing everything we can, along with still prospecting and having good conversations with our sphere and the people that know and care about us already, and just keeping them up to date in the market. So the second part of the question is I think it's the same answer, right? We're just going to keep doing everything that we've always done and stay consistent and do all we can to help as many families as we can.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. So I have a question for Anthony. This one came from Danny, and I may have a couple things to add here as well. But the question is, you have, Real Team has a full marketing plan. How do you pinpoint which segments of marketing will help generate the buyer? Is it, the sign, social media, third parties? What are you doing?
During this time?
Yeah.
During this pandemic, regards to marketing?
Yeah.
Well, right now, what we're doing to marketing is, we're getting creative, right? So we're having the sellers right now take pictures the best they can, because we can't have photographers step in the house right now. We're having them shoot virtual tours of their house, actual videos. Jason yesterday did a virtual open house, which seemed to have a lot of success on it yesterday for with marketing. So we're definitely getting creative. And what segment we're doing is just using social media as our platform right now to generate as much traffic through that house virtually.
Absolutely. As the marketing director, I have a couple of things to add to that too. I mean, we, people are all over their social media right now. And I think the biggest thing for us though is, yes, we want to find buyers for our listings, and we're doing that in several different avenues, even more than we have before, because we have those platforms and people are spending more time on those platforms. But at the same time, honestly, things like this and providing value to our community and just education is, I think, what is going to help us get more buyers in the future to help sell our listings faster as soon as this is lifted. I think there's going to be a surge of listings when this is over because of people's hesitations, and we are working really hard to have that pool of buyers ready to go right now in our back pocket to help our sellers, help connect with our sellers as quickly as possible when we're up and running 100% as usual again. So question here for Jamie proper. This one's from Dave Samosky. How do you gauge a buyer's motivation who makes an offer during this quarantine if you're representing the seller?
Well, I think that the first way we gauge motivation is the offer price, right? Obviously, that's the first way we're going to gauge motivation. I think secondly, it's just when they want to start the process, right? We know that people are able to have inspections done, have appraisals done, and get to the closing table, like Jamie mentioned, in 30, 35, 40 days, whatever it may be. We do still have buyers out there that want to wait until this is over. They want to physically walk through the house, which is totally, obviously, it's totally fine. We're going to have people who feel more comfortable doing it that way. I would say we know that the buyer's motivation is there if they're ready to get the ball rolling right now. So that's number one.
Okay. So Jason, this question's from Dave as well. what is your pricing strategy for listings in this current environment?
Ooh, that's a great question. Pricing strategy, it typically hasn't really changed too much. We're still monitoring, what's active as far as our competition, what they've accomplished on the days on market, and pricing accordingly. My goal is never to overprice the property, and to make sure that it's a comparable price between the seller and I. It's tough to know what the initial walkthroughs are, because typically we gauge how many people walk through the home, how many people requested a showing, and what was the feedback to make any adjustments to price. And then walking through, we know that we can it's a tough question, Dave. Yeah. My pricing I'm still pulling the market analysis like I typically do. And my goal is not to overprice the home according to the market analysis. Now, gauging the feedback from what we do get, regardless if it's a virtual showing or not, then we're looking to make adjustments based on the seller's motivation.
Janae, can I follow up that question?
Sure, of course.
Thank you, Jamie.
No, you're good. That was a good answer. I just wanted to be like perfectly crystal clear for everyone. So I don't think our pricing strategy has changed at all. I just want it to be perfectly clear. We're definitely still in a seller's market, and homes that are priced correctly are selling with multiple offers. We're still receiving multiple offers on our listings. So I think the pricing strategy is the goal, and the goal is the same as it's always been, right? We have to look at the data, and then we have to let the buyers speak for themselves and let see how the market reacts. But at the end of the day, when it comes to pricing a listing today or pricing a listing 2 months ago, do I see a change or a shift in it? Not at all.
Good. That brings confidence to the market too. So Jamie, Jamie Johnson, sorry. What does a forbearance look like for those who cannot pay their mortgage right now?
Well, as we all know, part of the CARES Act was the offer of forbearance for those people impacted by COVID-19. So essentially, what that means is that anyone can reach out to their current servicer, that is the entity collecting the mortgage payment, and request forbearance for their payments. That can be up to, at current guidelines, the current act shows a full year. I think that the servicers are offering it in 3 months increments right now. So they're giving people the forbearance. And this is offered without any proof of hardship, which is kind of a double-edged sword. And we can talk about that. But basically, if you tell your lender, your servicer, that you're experiencing hardship, they will allow you to skip payments. Skipping those payments does not make them go away. Those payments will be due. They will eventually be due, and how they're paid is yet to be determined. But it looks like there's going to be 3 options. There's either going to be a lump sum that could become due at the end of that 3-month period. There could be an option to have those payments spread out over a short period of time, maybe a year or 2. Or at the end, there may be some kind of formal modification process that you'll have to go through and you'll have to apply for. And that modification process would probably entail some kind of an application where they may either, adjust the loan out at the end. A lot of different possibilities, but right now, it's quite simple to get. And if a person needs it, they should definitely ask for it, and they should definitely get something in writing from a lender as to what the plan is or what the options are. I would suggest that they ask for something to get emailed to them before they stop making those payments.
Okay. So I have a quick follow-up question to that. So if they are in forbearance, can they still sell their home, or can they?
Absolutely. Yes, they can. you might not be able to refinance a home, but you could definitely sell it.
Okay. With paying off that balance at closing.
Right, that would become, that for those payments that were not made or not collected, would become part of the payoff that you would have to pay at closing.
Okay. And then when they file for forbearance, does that affect their credit? Do you know?
Currently, no. That's what the feedback that I'm seeing is that they're not reporting it as 30-day lates to the credit bureaus. So if you miss 3 months, obviously in that period of time under normal circumstances, that could start a foreclosure. By then you'd be in foreclosure. Right now, they're not even reporting them as 30-day lates on the mortgage, on the credit bureaus. How it's going to look after the repayment process starts, we don't know yet. We haven't seen anything yet.
Okay. Sounds good. So Anthony, I have a question for you. This one came from Danny Schick. There's a lot of extreme political views that are blowing up all of media, social media platforms, and leaded to heated comment threads, he said, to put it lightly. How are you blocking out the noise and keeping a productive and professional mindset to continue to be an industry leader?
That is a great question. It's definitely not easy because it's, the political views are everywhere. It's all over the news. Everyone's opinions are everywhere. Your friends are talking about it in your group texts. There's memes everywhere. You name it, it's everywhere. So yes, some days are better than others, but you really just have to focus on protecting your mental health during this time. There's a lot of negativity, and you have to focus on what you can control and not focus on what you can't control. And one thing you can control every single day is your attitude and what you do to prep yourself for every single day. And you have to feed yourself the positivity to get through these times. Ultimately, just focus on, why I'm doing what I'm doing right now is, you got to focus on your goals, right? So the 7:15, the 7:30 phone calls we have, the 9:30 dial sessions, it's all for a cause, and there's a reason why we do it. And as long as I keep that in mind, all the things will fall in place, and I'll be able to control what I control and see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Awesome. I love that. That can definitely be challenging, I'm sure. So Jason, what happens if I am a buyer and I put an offer on a home right now that I have not seen, totally sight unseen, but then when I go through the home physically, once I'm able to, I decide I don't like it. What happens? What options do I have right now?
That's a great question. Currently, our buyers are putting in the addendums, the COVID addendums, to be specific, on homes that they are writing offers to. As long as there's wording on there that protects the buyer during the inspection period, that doesn't begin until the shelter's in place that is lifted. So basically, like Real Team Real Estate has wording prepared to protect our buyers, that when they're ready to write an offer, and it's going to protect them until they actually walk through the home.
Okay, excellent.
And until the shelter's lifted at least, or until they're able to physically walk through the home somehow.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question, and this one's going to be for Jamie proper. If we're representing the seller though, and a buyer comes in and says, hey, I want to write an offer on your house and move forward with, inspection, appraisal, whatever, but it's contingent on me liking the house once I walk through. What advantages does the seller have in accepting an offer with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think that there's a couple pieces to the puzzle there. So number one, if it's my seller, obviously my goal is to protect them. So if that verbiage was in the contract, there would also be verbiage in the contract stating that we can still show the house until the buyer is satisfied with their walkthrough.
Okay.
And I think secondly, the advantage is we know that right now the sellers do have the leverage because there's lack of inventory. So our chances of getting an acceptable offer, an offer that makes the most sense for our seller, is likely higher than it will be once the shelter in place is lifted and there's more inventory and more competition from other sellers. So I would say when it comes to netting them the most amount of money, now's a great time. So it's an advantage whether the buyers are walking through today or walking through in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. So on that same topic, one of our viewers here, Howard, sent a question over in the chat and says, if someone wants to wait to sell because of the stay-at-home order, what important points would you tell them to put them at ease?
Yeah, so I think it's the same answer, to be honest with you. So if someone wants to wait to sell because of this shelter in place because they don't feel safe, I'm never going to try to convince somebody to do something they're not comfortable with. I would say, obviously, thank you for, choosing to work with us, and we're excited to help you. But if you're choosing to wait, I would say that, again, there's likely going to be more competition and buyers are going to have more choices, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to get the job done. I truly believe in all of our processes that we've talked about this whole Zoom call. So when it comes to still getting you from point A to point B seamlessly, we're going to do it, whether we do it now or in the future. You just might have a little more competition in the future.
Okay. That makes sense. All right.
I'd like to add to that as well.
Yeah.
There's also going to be a certain amount of pent-up demand for the buyers that are. I currently have people that are pre-approved that just don't want to shop. They're sitting on the sidelines. So not only I think is there going to be more listings, but I think that people who were sitting on the sidelines waiting, the buyers are going to come out of the woodwork too. So there's just going to be a lot of opportunities and a lot of activity, I think, once the restrictions are lifted and once we see lifted and see, things normalize. That's my opinion. I've having conversations with people who are, that I've pre-approved that own real estate now. And they've realized after being stuck in their home for the last 30, 45 days, how small their home is. They want to move because they feel like very crowded in their home. So they want to move to something bigger. I've got buyers who are first-time home buyers that are pre-approved, and they're still working. They're still collecting their paycheck, their essential services or what have you, and yet they don't want to go out. They're waiting for more homes to hit the market. So I think the real estate industry is just gonna take off once things get back to normal.
And Janae, on top of that, back to Howard's question, I think it's a great time to get your house ready too, right? So if you're choosing to wait, let's walk through the house together. Let's look at what we can change in your house, or even small touch-ups, whatever it may be. Let's use this time to get your house ready and make sure it's going to show as good as it possibly can when you're ready to get it on the market.
And that goes for buyers too. It's a great time to get your credit cleaned up if you have issues, to get your ducks in a row, to get pre-approved, to talk to a mortgage company, find out what it's going to take to get you into a house. You got nothing else to do. You might as well do that now.
Absolutely. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I don't have any other questions here in the chat. If anybody wants to throw any, Joshua Wright has one real quick. He threw a question in. Let's see, who can I throw this to? What is your forecast? Okay, so I'm going to throw this one. You guys can all chime in on this one. But I would like to start out with Jamie proper, and then if everyone can chime in. Joshua's question is, what's your forecast for the remainder of this year for 2020 in real estate in regards to transaction count and home prices? So Jamie proper, do you want to start us out? And this will be our last question, so feel free to wrap it up, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. So I think that as soon as the shelter in place is lifted, it's going to be crazy for everybody. So I think there's going to be, like Jamie just mentioned, a ton of buyers buying, a ton of sellers selling. Everybody's antsy and getting ready. So from a transaction standpoint, I think that there's going to be a lot, and we're all going to be very, very busy. So I'm excited about it. What was the second question?
I think that, you answered it.
Okay.
You answered it.
I got to say, my goals personally haven't changed as far as my business aspect of it. So my goal at the beginning of the year was to close on 60 properties, buy or sell. Typically, I'm a little heavier on the sell side, and I don't see, I have not adjusted my prediction at all. In fact, I think that these last 5 weeks have actually helped me to perfect my craft a little bit, add some extra tools to my tool chest, and kind of just double down on my prospecting and talking to my clients and getting everybody prepared for an extremely busy summer and an extremely busy fall, from what I see.
Yeah. Anthony, do you feel the same?
Yes, I feel exactly the same way both Jamies feel. There's a lot of pent up demand, and it's going to be business as usual. Once we come out of this, it's going to be busy.
What do you think about home prices when we get out of this?
I think home prices, when we come out of this, they're going to be where they're at right now. They're still at a high for sellers. It's going to be a seller's market for a while until inventory increases and then demand levels out. So right now, with demand being so high, people are going to get top dollar. But once once more inventory goes up, demand's going to go down a little bit. So it all depends on the demand and supply.
Okay. So we could see maybe trending towards a neutral market, maybe by the end of the year or so, depending on how we pull out of this.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. All right.
I think that the number of homes also is going to be influenced. The number of homes that go on the market is going to be influenced by how many people do the forbearance. And if you've deferred 3 to 6 months worth of monthly payments, are you going to be able to recover from that, or are you going to have to sell? So there's another indicator right there. And as far as the overall economy goes, I think mortgage interest rates are going to stay very low. The government is doing everything they can, right or wrong. They're making decisions to help our economy keep flowing. So I think rates are going to stay low. And I think a lot of it depends on whether or not they come up with a vaccination. If they come up with a vaccination, obviously, look out, the doors are going to fly off and people are going to come running out of their homes, and it's going to be a lot more activity. So there's a lot of things that are beyond our control.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you. That was a great question to wrap us up. We hope this was very insightful today. I definitely want to give a big shout out and thank you to our panelists for their help today, and to all of you for tuning in and participating and keeping the conversation going. If our panelists really quickly can shoot their emails and phone numbers in the chat for anybody, if you want to talk one-on-one with them about your specific situation, feel free to reach out to them anytime. We want this to be, as impactful as possible, and we want to help you in your current situation. So love to connect with you guys. If anybody has any questions for us, you can always email at info@mirealteam.com, and I will direct it to the best person to help you. We did record this, and I will post it on our YouTube if you want to reference it at all for anything in the future. But we really appreciate all of you for your help and support. And if there's anything that we can do to help and support your families, please let us know. But it is sunny out. I feel like this has been the 3rd sunny Saturday in a row, and I like to get outside. So I'm going to let you guys go. Everybody should get outside, get some fresh air, enjoy the sunshine. And thank you again. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Janae.
Thank you,
Everybody. Have a happy
Thanks,
Saturday.
Thanks, guys.